So how can the gut microbes affect brain function and structure? A lot of this information I deal with in details in my book, because a lot of new information, new science has emerged since the publication of the mind-gut connection. There's different communication channels that is a good way to understand this. So one is through the immune system, through mediators of the immune system. So the gut microbes interact with the gut-based immune system, engagement of the immune system in the gut, then sending out molecules. Lipopolysaccharide, for example, is one of them. Cytokines is another group of chemicals or molecules that then can either act on nerve endings, for example, of the vagus nerve, and then the vagus nerve transmits that signal to the brain, or they can get into the bloodstream and go through the blood-brain barrier and activate immune cells in the brain, which then, more than half of the cells in our brain are these immune-like cells, glial cells, which then influence brain function or neuronal function. Then there's another way, the endocrine way. Many microbes metabolize or change food components, for example, essential amino acids like tryptophan, into molecules that can get into the bloodstream. There's one kynurenine, another one the indoles. They get into the bloodstream and again some of them can cross the blood-brain barrier and affect brain function. Another interesting pathway is that microbes can stimulate the production of serotonin, most of which happens in the gut. And then that serotonin is released onto, again, the nerve fibers in the gut and can signal to the brain. So we have the immune communication channel, we have the hormonal communication channel, and then we have these neuroactive substances that act on the vagus nerve that then generate a neuronal signal. Now, these three communication channels do not act in isolation, but they interact with each other. But ultimately, they're able to give the brain a fairly good impression of what goes on in the gut, particularly what food components that we ingest. And keep in mind, there's thousands of molecules in our food, different distinct molecules, only some of which you understand what happens to them in microbial metabolism. But you can assume that thousands of small molecules that are produced by microbes ultimately make their way to the central nervous system, to the brain, and modulate its function. This must be a subtle mechanism, because obviously we don't lose consciousness or we don't change from one emotion to another when we have a meal. But if this happens over a lifetime, this cloud of signaling molecules that reaches the brain every day, 24 hours a day, can have a profound influence on brain structure and function.